That first cup of coffee in the morning. For so many of us, it's just part of the routine, right? But have you ever stopped to think about what's really happening inside your body after that first sip? Well, today, we're going to follow the journey of a single cup of coffee over 12 full hours. We all know this story. At 10 in the morning, you are on fire. You're energized, you're focused, you're just knocking things off your to-do list. But then, 3 p.m. rolls around, and suddenly you feel drained, sluggish. The infamous afternoon crash hits you like a wall. So what's the deal? To figure out this daily roller coaster, we've got to look beyond the coffee mug and actually peek inside our own brains. It all comes down to this really fascinating bit of chemistry, a daily drama between a molecule that makes you tired and the caffeine we pour in to fight it. Okay, so meet the star of our show, a molecule called adenosine. Think of it like a tiny sleep counter in your brain. From the moment you wake up, it starts to build up and up and up. The more adenosine you have floating around, the more sleep pressure you feel. It's basically your body's natural way of saying, hey, it's time to wind down. So how does caffeine pull off its little magic trick? Well, it's basically a master of disguise. All that adenosine is looking for a place to park, a special spot called a receptor, so it can deliver its "you're tired" message. But then, caffeine shows up. And because caffeine molecules look so similar to adenosine, they slide right into those parking spots and block them. So the adenosine can't dock. The key thing to get here is that caffeine doesn't create energy. It just hijacks the system so your brain can't hear the signals telling it that it's tired. So, how long does this blockade last? This brings us to a really important idea: caffeine's half-life. On average, it takes your body about 3 to 5 hours to get rid of half the caffeine you drink. And this number, this half-life point, is the crucial turning point in our 12-hour journey. Let's lay this all out on a timeline. About 45 minutes after you drink your coffee, the caffeine hits its peak. You feel great, alert, you're in the zone. 4 hours in, you hit that half-life we just talked about. But here's the plot twist. All that time the caffeine was blocking the receptors, adenosine didn't just go away. Oh no, it kept building up in the background, waiting. So around the 8-hour mark, as the caffeine starts to clear out, those receptors finally open up. And what happens? All that waiting adenosine comes rushing in all at once. This is what's called the adenosine flood. And that, my friends, is the biological reason for the crash. But believe it or not, the story isn't over, not even after the crash. After 8 hours, you still have a pretty significant chunk of caffeine in your system. And get this, even a full 12 hours after that morning cup, a quarter of the caffeine is still there, doing its thing. And this might be the most important part of the whole story. You might think, 25%, what's the big deal? Well, it's a huge deal for your sleep. That leftover caffeine might not be enough to keep you awake, but it is more than enough to mess with the quality of your deep, restorative sleep. So you might fall asleep just fine, but your sleep quality tanks, which of course means you wake up feeling tired and reaching for, you guessed it, another cup of coffee. And the cycle begins again. All right, let's just quickly recap the whole wild ride. First, remember that caffeine is an energy borrower, not an energy creator. It's just blocking sleep signals. Second, that afternoon crash isn't just a feeling, it's a real biological event. It's the adenosine floodgates bursting open. Third, even though the peak effects are pretty quick, its presence is long. And finally, its effects linger for at least 12 hours, and that can seriously sabotage your sleep quality. Now look, this isn't about telling you to quit coffee. Not at all. It's about being smart about it, about understanding what it's actually doing inside your body. So now that you know about this 12-hour cycle and how it can impact your sleep, it leaves you with a really practical question to ask yourself. When are you going to take your last sip of the day?